What's going on, hockey friends? We are back, and today we are talking about the 2022 Stanley Cup Champions, the Colorado Avalanche, and what could be the next great NHL dynasty. Now, I believe they have all the tools to do it, but there's a lot of work ahead and it will start in this off-season, with some tough decisions where Colorado will lose some of their key components from this cup run. But I think the core of this team and the leadership is more than good enough to be the foundation of a dynasty team. So let's first talk about the core of this team and what lies ahead this off-season. So the core of this team, with Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, and a defensive pairing of Cale Makar and Devon Toews, is absolutely elite, and I don't think there's a better center and defense combo in the whole league than Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. Now, Cale Makar is already tied down long term, and his cap hit is already a steal in my opinion. He's already won the Norris Trophy and the Conn Smythe and could honestly win the Hart next year because he's so damn good, and I think he's in that upper echelon of the elite in the NHL with McDavid, with Matthews, and MacKinnon could very well become a part of that as well. And speaking of MacKinnon, Joe Sakic has a lot of work to do with him now because next year he's a UFA and Colorado need to plan ahead for that. He could demand McDavid money and it would honestly be worth it, but I think he'll take a hometown discount and end up with an 8-year deal in the high 10s to the low $11 million range. But he's going to be signed regardless, but I'm more intrigued to see what Colorado does this offseason because they have a lot of work to do. How does Nazem Kadri, Valeri Nichushkin, Andrei Burakovsky and Darcy Kemper sound like? Yeah, they're all UFAs and some of them, especially Nichushkin and Kadri, will get paid. The playoffs Nichushkin had were nothing short of incredible, and I'm thinking he could get up to $7 million if he tried the market. Colorado has $25 million to play with, so they could bring him back, but it's a question of who you need more, Nichushkin or Kadri. Nichushkin is 4 years younger and just an absolute demon, so I'd sign him. Kadri deserves a big payday as well, but I can't see that being in Colorado. That means you're probably losing Burakovsky as well, but that's a compromise I think is worth taking. And regardless, you have Lekkonen, and he's an RFA and just as good as Burakovsky, and he's been proven to be absolutely clutch in the playoffs. I think one major key here is Erik Johnson. He's got 1 year left on his $6 million cap hit, and if Colorado can find a way to move that contract this summer, it'll help them sign someone like Josh Manson. Now, I don't think they should do it because he was good, but Manson is 4 years younger than Johnson and I can't see him demanding more than $6 million. Samuel Girard will also be back after being out with an injury and he's got a cap hit of just $5 million. You also have to plan ahead with Bowen Byram, who you can sign to an extension this offseason, and I think it's a no-brainer. All in all, the top 6 on the forward side and the top 4 on the defensive end is elite. Sure, you're losing Kadri, but I think Alex Newhook is ready for the top 6, and that means you could have a top 6 combination with MacKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Nichushkin, Newhook, and Lekkonen. I mean, just look at that. That is incredible. Now, the line combinations here are just an example, but it's still unreal. And they're all in their prime years or entering their prime years. The defensive end with a top 4 of Makar and Toews need no explanation. It's the best defensive pairing in the league. Makar is the best defenseman in the league, and Toews is genuinely a top 10 defenseman. Check out my video on him, by the way. And then you have a pairing with Bowen Byram and Josh Manson, and I love Byram. He struggled so much with concussions and now he's a cup champion and still just 21 years old, and he's incredible. I get that there are concerns about his health and his concussion history, but when he's playing and with the potential he's got, you have a real gem here, so at least give him a 2 or 3 year bridge deal. So the top 6 will be elite, the top 4 will be elite. What about goaltending? This is where I'm not completely sold with Kemper, and I know it sounds insane to say after he just won a cup and only allowed 1 goal in the deciding game, but he had his moments in this final, like in game 5 for example. He's 32 now and you have a big decision ahead here. Do you put your trust in him and sign him somewhat long term? I'm thinking 4 or 5 years, or do you test the market? Do you wait and see what happens with Jack Campbell, because that's the only goalie on the market I see where you can make a safe, long-term investment? Ville Husso could also be a pretty safe bet, and Fleury is good, but he doesn't have 5 years left in the tank. And if Colorado could win with Kemper right now, who I see as pretty much average, then they can win with him again. The bottom 6 looks good too. JT Compher is effective, and if Alex Newhook struggles on the second line, you could play him there instead. And Ben Myers will hopefully play the full season, and I think he can be good too. And you never know who Colorado will find in the free agent market or via trades, and whoever they do find, I'm confident it'll be a good acquisition, because just look what they've done with Devon Taves, Arturi Lekkonen and Valeri Nichushkin, for example. So that was a pretty lengthy rundown on the current roster and what moves can be made in the off-season. Now, there's a lot of variables when it comes to whether a team can sustain their success over several seasons. There's injuries, there's the fact that hockey is a rather luck-based game, but you make your own luck, and I think this core they've built here in Colorado is so harmonious and just plain amazing that they'll keep making their own luck. They aren't overperforming when you look at their advanced stats, and their analytics department is really good, so they have that going for them as well. There are more challenges down the road. Devon Taves will need a new contract in 2 years. You need to sign Bowen Byram, Alex Newhook, and eventually the cap will run out. But I think there are a few things that speak in Colorado's favor. Number one, basically the whole point of this video, I don't think there's a better group of core players that complement each other so well in the NHL. McKinnon is the superstar on the forward side. He's the modern type of elite player with unbelievable skating, unreal hands, and if you don't love to watch him play, then are you even a hockey fan? There's Landeskog, who I guess is the veteran here, but he's just 30. But he brings the grit, he brings a captain's game, he fights and he scores, and I love it. And then there's of course Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the league. I'm sorry Victor Hedman, but you've been dethroned. Makar brings the same elite offensive game as McKinnon does, but on the defensive end. And his defensive play is just getting better and better, and I mean, it's already really good. Pairing him up with Devon Taves, who I also view as one of the best defensemen in the league, is just unfair, and they are a perfect match together. Then you have Rantanen, and oh man, I could go on and on, but I would just end up going in circles, but this core is so good. Adding pieces to the bottom 6 forward group and depth pieces to the defensive group shouldn't be that hard. Sure, you are losing a fair chunk that was part of this team, but you also have a few prospects that are coming up. Ben Myers, like I said, and I would like to see Oskar Lawson get a chance to play. I don't think he's ready to take on a huge role on this team, but there's a lot of skill in him and he could become an effective player. You also have the first round pick in 2023 to trade if you have to. I would like to see Colorado try and keep that if they can, because that draft is looking good, and especially because they don't have a pick in the 2 first rounds in this year's draft and no second round pick until 2025. There's a risk Colorado could end up like Pittsburgh here, where they trade away their top pick every year, but on the other hand, Pittsburgh won 3 cups doing it this way. But anyways, I've said what I wanted to say, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about this Colorado team. Who would you like to see them add, and could they become a dynasty? As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.